Welcome to the Best Things Podcast. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on all the socials at Best Things Pod as well. Now, here are your hosts, Craig and Aaron.
Hello, Internets. Welcome into the Best Things Podcast. My name is Craig. Sitting next to me, as always, laugh track boy himself, Aaron Brooks. We really need a laugh track for this episode.
Yeah, we do.
Man, I wish I would have thought of that before we hit record.
And the great ideas always come later.
Always come later. Welcome to the pod, everybody. Glad
Wish we had
that
like a
you're here.
living room set up as well.
That's also true. That would be great. You know, just now when you said living room setup, made me think of WandaVision. They did a great job with that series.
They did.
Making each we're talking about sitcoms today. And I said right before we hit record that going through this list, looking at every decade has a visual. They did a good job with that.
They did.
I forgot all about that. They
nailed
did a
it.
really good job with that. So today we're talking about sitcoms. What's the best sitcom? But that's not what we're deciding. Not what the best sitcom is. What is the best decade of sitcom? That's the question.
We'll eventually get to the other question.
We will.
This is going to be a series
Yeah.
that's,
We'll come. It's a deep well. We can come back to.
Yep. We'll unpack this.
We didn't know how we wanted to do it, and honestly, I started working on this list, and we looked at it and said, if we try to tackle this, how long? If we didn't try to rush, if we just kind of took our time with it, how long do you think we could talk about this list?
2.5 hours.
Easy. There's a lot. There's a lot of great sitcoms. I don't even know the number here. Let me see if I can hit a button to tell me how many this is. Does Notes do that? Formatting. Table. That's not it. Indentation.
We need like math notes.
We do. Numbered list. Here we go. This gives me nearly 100.
Oh, we got a top 100 list.
Yeah.
We need 4 more to round that out.
Surely they're out there.
We will
It's
think
just
of
bad.
4 more
Yeah.
to add to that list.
So what's the best decade for sitcoms? That's the question we're here to ask. Now, before we get into each of these decades, we need to set up this episode just a little bit because it's going to be a little bit of a different episode. This is not going to be our typical format where we do a thing about the things and all that kind of stuff. We're actually going to flip it. We're going to do the bracket is the episode.
Yep. The bracket has been decided. It is set.
It is set
for
This
us.
is the first time we've ever done this, but the bracket is set because there are 8 decades we're going to talk about. Sitcoms began in the 50s, and I think there were some in the 40s, but you've never heard of them.
No.
We live in the 2020s. That's 80 years, 8 decades. And so we decided, let's go ahead and bracket it out. So what we're doing is we are pitting. This is a little bracketology. If you've never built a bracket, I've built way too many brackets out in my day. But we took, so for the first,
He'll get through it.
I almost died. We took the latest decade, which is the 2020s, and we're pitting them up against the 1950s, the earliest decade. And so we kept going in that order all the way down till 80s and 90s faced off against each other. So that is the format. That is the bracket. That's what we're doing. And instead of waiting to the end to talk about it, we are going to do the bracket first. And we're going to decide each matchup as we talk about it. This will make sense, I promise you, as we go through it. But any other pre-deep conversation thoughts, banter that you have about any of this? Whilst I take a sip of water?
I don't know where it fits. Well, I know where it fits.
Right now?
And it fits with the next segment. That's where it
Okay.
fits.
Okay.
It does.
So I want to say though before, just the kind of what defines a sitcom. Because as I was going through this list, and then you popped in too, and we started talking about it, there are some on this list that or on a lot of lists that I saw, that I would not classify as a sitcom. I used to be in the camp that if it was a sitcom, that it would probably be a live studio audience. It would have some kind of a laugh track on it or something like that, multicam. I don't think you can say that and include any of the ones from 2020, because a lot of those are single cam now, and they're doing different things. No laugh tracks, no live studio audience. But I think at the end of the day, a sitcom, it stands for situational comedy. So it's an episode. It's a show that you should be able to pick up on any episode, any season, hop in, and be able to catch up pretty quickly. Yes, you're going to have subplots. You're going to have a main storyline that moves forward. But I mean, any sitcom prior to, honestly, the last 10 years did not really follow this long overarching storyline.
No.
You could pop up in any week, any season, and catch up. And just a little history lesson for those of you that don't know, the reason why they did that, because there used to not be this thing called DVR streaming. Like, the whole goal was that you wanted to get your audience every week.
Yes.
And so if they missed a week because of baseball practice, or somebody was gone, or vacations, you didn't want to miss out on that audience and make them feel lost. So they needed to be able to just pop in whenever and catch up with their favorite crew. So I think at the end of the day, that's kind of the biggest judge of what a sitcom is. Okay. Anything else before? I can't believe I'm saying it this early before we bracket this thing.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then we're going to hit a different button that we don't usually hit this time of the episode.
If you want to be the best, you have to beat the rest. This is the Best Things Bracket.
Okay. So the bracket's set. This is going to be one of the episodes. We don't put the bracket on TikTok because it'll take an hour. Although you can have up to hour-long content now on TikTok. I don't know who's watching
Can
it.
you really?
You can.
Whoa.
For select channels, and we're one of those, I guess. But, yeah, you can have up to an hour's worth. Who's scrolling TikTok, finds a video that lasts an hour, and says, I'm just going to hang out here for the next 60
Parking it.
60 minutes. But you can. Okay, so the bracket is this. Which decade is the best? We have the 20s versus the 50s, the aughts versus the 70s, the 90s versus the 80s, and the teens, the 20 teens versus the 60s. Okay? That's what we've got to figure out. So, we're going to start at the top of the order. Most current, V, oldest. Which decade do you want to start with?
Let's start with current.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
It's slim pickings in the 20s. It's really hard to find great sitcoms today.
This is what I said I thought I would. Stepped on something. What I would save for this segment, because this is where we're at.
Yeah.
I told you before we hit record, I feel like comedy is dead.
Yeah.
And I start to look at what you have listed.
And I don't even know if I would consider that one a sitcom. But I felt bad for the 20s.
ChatGPT included it as well.
Okay.
Because I asked it, and it's got the same slim pickings that you've got with a couple of others that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
I mean, we're only 4 years into the decade.
That's
so
true.
It could get better.
But you look at the launch dates, the release dates of all these other decades, there's plenty that are coming out in the first few years. And I even think about shows that may have started in the 2010s. They're not running anymore.
Right.
So it's just really slim pickings right now.
I'm going to give you the ones that ChatGPT spit out for me.
Okay.
Ted Lasso, Abbott Elementary, Only Murders in the Building, Reservation Dogs, The Righteous Gemstones, Mythic Quest, Hacks, The Great North, Young Rock, and Ghosts.
Wow.
I don't know half of those.
I've heard of Young Rock. That's supposedly the story of Dwayne The Rock Johnson growing up.
Okay. So it's like Young Sheldon?
I guess so. I like Ghosts. I put Ghosts on my list. Ghosts is great.
I've heard of that one. I've not seen it.
Yeah, it's good. It's on CBS. It's funny. It's based much like The Office. It's based on a UK comedy. It's good. The premise is a couple buy an old rundown mansion.
Yes.
They're going to fix it up. She falls, hits her head, and suddenly she can see every ghost that lives.
So it's
there.
haunted
The house is haunted
in a funny way.
But they don't really haunt. They're just there. She can just see dead people now, but she's only limited to seeing people who live in that space. So the ghost can't leave that property that they've died on. So there's lots of funny things in it. The cast is great. It's pretty quirky.
Only one of these I feel like is memorable and going to be remembered.
It's Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. And this one I think walks a line.
That's true.
As we didn't allow other dramedies in there,
Yeah.
and this one walks that line, I think, being close.
Fortunately, it does lean more comedy, just the littlest bit.
I think it leans slightly that way, and the fact that there's so little in this.
If Ted Lasso came out in the
decade.
90s, it would not make this list.
Probably not.
As funny as it is, but I don't think it's making the list because there's so many other great comedies, and they're straight up comedies. Only Murders in the Building is the other one I put on here. And
I have seen a couple episodes of that.
we watched a season of it and just never picked it back up. I honestly, I don't know that I would call it a comedy, a sitcom at least. Because it leans, I think it leans more dramedy. This would be like your Psych, your Monk, that kind of situation than it would be a sitcom.
Let me ask you this question and see if this has any relevance and any bearing on why we might feel this way. Because others have brought this up, and some refute it by saying, well, this is the nostalgia effect hitting you.
It's true.
You're not appreciating what is happening now because you're looking back at Friends, Seinfeld, The Office, further back than that, 80s and before. And so there's nostalgia. Is that what's happening, or is it true that the comedy just isn't as funny?
The comedy genre is just not, and I told you this off air, I've heard on podcasts from other producers and actors that it's not lucrative. So studios and actors, and stuff, a lot of the actors would do it in a heartbeat if it was there to do. But the studios just do not see. Think about movies. There's not a lot of comedy movies out there either.
No.
There's not funny movies anymore.
Just comedy in general.
Yeah. Stand-up is still going pretty strong, thankfully. But, and you mentioned it, a lot of these network TV and movies, these studios don't want to take a risk on something that's maybe a little risky in the PR department. Or
One of the
PC
things that I see
department.
brought up, is how sitcoms of the past tried to avoid maybe some social issues, complex issues, political issues, because that's not what their job was.
Right.
And I would argue that's not what their job is.
No.
One of the things that we said is that part of what we're trying to do is escape from some of that.
Yeah.
We can have those conversations between
Absolutely.
ourselves. I don't need the TV to try to tell me how I should interpret this situation.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think some of them are scared to take certain risks with it.
Well, we live in such a litigious society. The internet has hurt comedy. Let's be honest. Because these issues have always been around.
Yeah.
But back in the day, a show like, All in the Family or, Good Times, they would address these things head on. They would tackle these subjects in very real. There's a reason we the after school special mentality and these a very special episode, it used to air in the 80s and 90s. They would address it, but the thing was, after the internet wouldn't take it and run with it after that. That it would air, people might say something about it, but then it was done. And you just never saw it again. In today's world, something like that comes out, Twitter blows up, TikTok blows up.
Immediately.
Everybody is getting mad. and it just lingers out there for too long. And so it's just not lucrative anymore for comedies to take a chance and to actually be funny.
And even when those people get stirred up, whoever those people are, they're the vocal ones. But
exactly.
It could be a very small group of people that are stirred up about it.
Yeah.
But they make so much noise that the network reacts to that.
Even our comedy heroes and icons aren't doing it anymore. Steve Carell, your Will Ferrell's, your Vince Vaughn is in a drama series right now.
Somebody told me that the other. I said, wait, Vince Vaughn?
And he was on that podcast I was talking about. He said, it's just that's where it's at right now. That's where the studios are going. That's where they're leading. You either have to adapt or you're out. You're not going to have a career. And so you think about Jim Carrey is one of those. Like, go down the list. If you're our age, a millennial, and you have comedy icons, all of them are doing drama stuff now, or they're just not working at all. So check against the 2020s. I don't know what else to mention about it. Thankfully, the 50s doesn't necessarily have a lot either.
No, because this was kind of the birth of it. This is where it's really starting to hit the scene. And this is what I was going to say. When it comes to people saying it's the nostalgia thing, you're looking back and you just have fondness of those. I was not around for the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, but some of these are some of my very favorite shows.
Because you watched them on TV Land.
Yeah, I did. I grew up watching them on TV Land. Go ahead and tell us this.
Hey, if you're a millennial watching this right now, you having a good day? Let's see if we can change that. You remember watching TV Land and it being shows from the 60s and the 70s, right? You know, it was the Flintstones and it was Beverly Hillbillies and Gilligan's Island and I Love Lucy. You know what's on TV Land right now? Friends. Everybody loves Raymond.
Say it ain't so.
How I Met Your Mother.
No.
Yeah. Those are the things that are on TV Land right now. And you say, well, Craig, that doesn't make sense. Well, yeah, you know what? That was 20 years ago was when those shows came out. The 90s, yeah, that was 30 years ago. So all of you, your lives are now ruined because TV Land is now showing the stuff that we enjoy watching still to this day. And I've always heard it said, when you hit your 30s, time you start to freeze. Like what you enjoy just freezes. You don't start to watch any new stuff. And that could be part of what we're talking about here. But I have definitely gotten into that camp now where I'm starting to just really enjoy what I've just enjoyed. I don't care about, I still like watching new stuff, but it just doesn't seem like it's as good.
Yeah.
Now, occasionally there are some good stuff still out there, but we're talking about the 50s. The 5 big ones I have on my list. Now, these are like heavyweights. So there were some out there I've never heard of on the 50s. But you're talking about some legendary ones. Have you ever heard of the Honeymooners? Have you ever heard of Leave It to Beaver? Abbott and Costello Show? A little thing called I Love Lucy came out in the 50s. I mean,
it was just I Love Lucy Day or something like that, wasn't it?
Yes.
That was last week.
Yeah. It was I Love Lucy Day. You're talking haymaker after haymaker after haymaker. I don't think the 20s stand a chance here.
No. You can just go ahead and advance the 50s.
We're just going to go ahead and move it on. These are just did you see any other ones on the list that I didn't mention that need to be on there?
No.
Because I think you could just say I Love Lucy and I Love Lucy just walks miles
I Love
around.
Lucy single-handedly defeats everything from the 2020s.
Absolutely. And I love Ted Lasso. But again, I don't think it's straight up sitcom. I think it walks that line. So when we're talking about a sitcom episode and what's the best decade for sitcoms, 50s clears easily.
I think that, a lot of people, what you will hear is that the 1950s, because you'll hear people talk, well, this isn't the Leave It to Beaver era anymore.
Right.
There was a heavy emphasis on traditional family and things like that may not be as popular today as what it was in the 50s. But I think that you also see things like Lucille Ball as a female character. It was not her husband. It was not Desi Arnaz that carried the show. Yeah. It was Lucy. Mm-hmm. She was the star.
Yeah.
She was a great comedian.
Yeah.
Physical comedy she was fantastic with. I have read both of their autobiographies. I love to read about their life. They really get a lot of credit for shaping, I think, what TV comedy was.
Yeah. I don't know that it looks the same without them. I mean, at all. Because it was a lot of variety shows were before that time.
Yes.
So I think had they not come, I mean, they really, all of these shows right here. I mean, well, 4 of the 5 or 3 of the 4 here are traditional sitcoms. Abbott and Costello was probably more closely to a variety show.
It was sort of a hybrid.
Yeah.
It felt like.
So you're talking about these 3 shows, and especially Lucy and Desi are breaking the mold and trying something new.
Yes.
And they set a standard that would last 70 years.
Yeah. And I think Jackie Gleason in The Honeymooners is one of the most memorable TV characters.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a character.
Yeah.
It would not be PC to put this show on.
Not at all. But
Today.
you know, one of the lists I looked at had it as the 8th best
Yes.
of all time, and I'm surprised that people ranked it that high because of the way he does talk to his wife. You would think, no, that's not going to fly today, but yet it's funny is funny.
It is.
Just plain and simple, funny is funny, and we just don't have it anymore.
No.
On TV, at least.
No. Easily a dub for the 50s decade.
Absolutely.
Over the 20s.
Do we want to go backwards in our time, or do we want to just go in the order of the bracket? Which I'm gonna let you pick. Which decade do you want to do next?
Let's go to the 10s and 60s.
Okay. So the 2010s, the teens versus the 60s. We'll start in the 2010s. We'll come back to our time. This was. Will history remember this as the last great decade of sitcoms?
I hope that at some point society, corrects this course and maybe the 2030s.
Yeah.
We're just back to this. We're going to make good comedy.
Do you think streaming has affected the sitcom?
Yeah.
Because if you see the same thing play out over and over again, does it get old? But
probably.
At the same time, all I have is streaming. I have YouTube TV for sports, but I don't see commercials anymore. But I guess I'm not sitting down to binge watch these sitcoms, but they're just on, right? They're on in the background. I'm watching a lot of the shows that we're going to talk about over the next 20 years.
I think that it is possible that could there be an oversaturation because there are so many different places out there.
That's
in
possible.
Decades past, you had your 3 or 4 networks.
That's possible.
So you had a handful of shows compared to now Apple TV is going to crank out so many comedies, and this platform is, and that platform is, and this network. Maybe it's oversaturated.
Maybe.
And that they're just trying to throw anything at the wall and see what sticks.
I would love to. Do you remember when TBS rebranded? It's been decades ago now. From just kind of the network that kind of showed a bunch of just other properties and networks, and just reruns. They rebranded to TBS Very Funny.
Yes.
They put the emphasis on, we are going to show comedies.
Yes.
We're going to show sitcoms. We're going to show comedy movies. I wonder if there is not a space for a streamer to put the emphasis back on comedy. And I wonder if we did that, could we possibly see some kind of a return to comedy? Would it be successful at all? Could they get the rights to a Friends and to The Office and to, some of these, Big Bang or Brooklyn Nine-Nine or 30 Rock? I mean, just all these that maybe come from different networks. Could they get the rights to them just to focus on a comedy streamer?
TNT was your drama and action.
Yeah.
TBS was your...
And I'm going to be honest with you. When I had cable, those were my two...
They're great channels.
The two channels, that and USA, probably that I had on the most because, it was comfort watch stuff, you know. But the 2010s, what are some of the highlights here for you?
Well, the first one that you have on the list is probably my favorite, Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
You still haven't done it, have you?
I still haven't done it. I know.
I'm disappointed in you.
I know.
I'm disappointed in you.
I need to do it. I like I said, I tried years ago. I tried watching from episode 1, and it just the first 3 didn't really connect with me. I just never came back to it.
And the first season, I feel like very much follows the first season of The Office, where they're trying to find their footing.
Yeah,
I don't want to say it's a spinoff of The Office, but it's created.
I will say this: I've loved every clip I've ever seen. Like I'll see clips on TikTok or YouTube, or people send me stuff and memes and stuff like that, and I've loved all of it. Just have never taken the leap and watched the whole series.
I forget how great Chris Pratt is.
Yeah, they have a great
Amy
cast.
Poehler, Tina Fey. You see her
Rob
quite
Lowe's
a bit.
in it, isn't he?
Rob Lowe's in it. Rashida Jones.
Yeah.
Nick Offerman. It's a great cast.
Yeah.
And the Indian guy that plays Tom, I can't think of his name.
I can't think of his name either.
Not April Ludgate, but the girl that plays her.
Aubrey Plaza.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful cast.
Yeah.
It's done in the mockumentary style. Mm-hmm. It's just such a great show.
Mockumentary definitely took over the 2010s.
It did.
Everybody's trying to chase the success of The Office at this point. So you've got Parks and Rec is mockumentary, Modern Family is mockumentary. Those are the two probably most popular that did it. Since then, we've had like Community is one.
Yep.
I think Abbott Elementary on there. I don't know if it is or not from this decade. There was one like Superstore or something like that came out.
Superstore,
I never saw it, but
I enjoyed Superstore quite a bit.
So that really that took over. And on WandaVision, which we mentioned earlier, they leaned into that. They went into the mockumentary style for this decade, this era of TV. You got some others on this list. The Good Place, did you ever watch that?
I watched a little of it. It just never hooked me.
Really? I loved it.
This was Ted Danson.
Dax Shepard's wife, Kristen Bell.
Yes.
Really, really strong.
We enjoyed it, but we were never faithful watchers.
The first season was a masterpiece. After that, the second season was good. Third season was fine. So it took your typical coming out of the gate strong. New Girl is one of my top 5 sitcoms.
All time?
All time.
Wow.
I love New Girl.
Zoe Deschanel, right?
Zoe Deschanel, Jake Johnson, Lamorne Morris, Max Greenfield. They do a great. I mean, every time I watch, I'm like, I need to go watch New Girl again. I'm crying, laughing at it. I will say this: maybe not my top 5 favorites of all time, but it's the top 5 funniest of all time. It makes me laugh so much.
I guess I have never completed this series.
Really,
I guess I need to do that.
Seasons 2, 3, and 4 are the strongest to me. That's a peak. Season 3 is one of my favorite seasons of TV out there. Brooklyn Nine-Nine, really strong too. I'm putting it in my top 10, 15. Big Bang Theory.
There is
that's a heavyweight.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's an all-timer, I think.
Why do you think it took off so much? Why do you think it was so popular? Because there's nothing inherently really special. I guess just because it's nerds, the underdogs kind of win in this one.
I think that was a great part of it. They were people that most of us don't associate with.
Yeah.
These scientists, these doctors.
Yeah.
But they were funny.
It was funny. It went on for how many seasons? Like 12 seasons?
I was going to say, it's a long time.
Maybe longer than that.
To me, it's an all-time.
Yeah.
And I get all the time people compare me to Sheldon.
You are, dude.
From so many different people.
It's so funny. Like when you know, kind of. Yeah, it's funny.
Last week, somebody was introducing me to another person, and they were like, he likes trains. And they were like, oh, are you Sheldon Cooper? And the guy was like, yeah, he's Sheldon. He loves flags. I'm like, I cannot help it that I know flags and that I enjoy flag trivia. I cannot help this.
You're just a particular. You like what you like.
I like what I like, and I guess I have some quirks about me that multiple people are like, that is Sheldon Cooper made over.
But Sheldon was the star of the show, so that should make you feel a little bit better.
It
right?
should.
The cast was good. You look at, I forget her name, who played Kaylee Cuoco.
Yes.
I remember her originally from was it 90s show? It may have been a 2000 show, but 8 Simple Rules of Dating My Teenage Daughter.
Oh, she was in that?
She was in that.
Okay.
But she was the ditzy blonde teenager girl who liked to, go out and party and just was like, whatever, dad, that kind of person. And so, you come over now to adulthood is the same person.
It's the same person.
But,
well, what's the other girl? She was in Blossom.
She was in Blossom. Oh, I didn't put Blossom on here. That gets us closer to 100.
She does Jeopardy.
Bialik.
Yes.
I think that's how you say her name.
She does Jeopardy now.
Who is, on TV, she portrays this neuroscientist. In real life,
she
has a PhD in neuroscience. She's a brilliant person.
And she is the female Sheldon.
Yes, that's true.
And then you have Howard's girlfriend that pops up in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I can't think of her name either.
Yeah, we obviously don't know names. We
don't know.
We don't have any of it pulled up here either.
No.
We're not doing that much research on this episode.
No.
But the guy who plays Howard is a great impressionist, by the way, also.
Ooh.
Remember him? He was in Studio 60. He was one of the cast members on that as well. Yeah. So he does great impressions as well. So the series is really good.
And you get Johnny Galecki. He played in...
he was in Roseanne.
Yes.
So there's chock full of people from other shows.
And he was in with Chevy Chase.
Yes. He was the son.
Christmas
Rusty.
Vacation.
Yeah, he was Rusty in Christmas Vacation. Yeah. Did he do any other vacations? Because they changed out the kids. I'm
trying to remember. I honestly don't remember.
I don't remember.
As I don't rewatch the. I have seen the others.
He may have been in the original Vacation.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Christmas Vacation is an annual rewatch, so that's why he sticks there. But
Big Bang Theory had a spinoff, Young Sheldon.
Yes, which was also popular.
It was very good too.
I have never really. I've seen an episode here and there, but I've never committed to the series.
Really, it's very good, and they do a good job. As we're both Christians, and that is a through line through it because his mom is such a devout Christian, and so I think it portrays faith in a very good way, in a very well done way of trying to walk that line. That leans. It's obviously a sitcom, but because there's no laugh track, there's no anything like that. It definitely gives you a different vibe sometimes.
Does Big Bang have a laugh track?
Yes,
it does.
Yeah.
Okay.
2000 early 2010s, shows started popping up with really, I guess, in the 2000s, but
The Office
was the first one I remember.
They went mockumentary totally, no laugh track at all.
And that was 2004, something like that. So you're talking
5.
But it didn't. The Office was not a hit right away.
No,
it took. It
took 2 or 3, 4 years before people really kind of got on that bandwagon.
And so you're talking mid to late 2000s. They started ditching laugh tracks. So 2010s is strong. I'll also put you got the Goldbergs, Last Man Standing,
Ooh, I love
Two
Last
Broke
Man Standing.
Girls. So it's a pretty solid year. 2010s decade. Yeah, you're right. What about the 60s though? Again, it's nostalgia. We can have nostalgia for both of these decades at this point.
Yes. To me, I'm going to really have difficulty being persuaded that this is not the best decade. I was nowhere close to living in the 60s.
Right.
But I grew up watching probably every single thing on this list. I have watched multiple times.
Dick Van Dyke Show.
Ding.
Get Smart.
Ding.
We forget also we've got animated sitcoms today. Family Guy, The Simpsons. There's all kinds of stuff like that. But I didn't realize growing up watching the Flintstones and the Jetsons, these were primetime sitcoms in the 60s. This was family sitcom. People would get around the TV and just watch this like they're watching The Big Bang Theory.
Right.
That just blows my mind. But you had those. Andy Griffith Show.
Oh, yeah.
Is a big one for you, I know. Bewitched.
I loved it.
I Dream of Jeannie.
Fantastic.
Gilligan's Island.
Seen them all.
Beverly Hillbillies.
Own it.
Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
Green Acres.
Oh.
Mr. Ed.
Yes.
Gomer Pyle.
Every one of those. I love them all.
Outside of Andy Griffith Show, which one are you picking as your favorite? We'll do this episode at some time, but first glance gut reaction, you can't say Andy Griffith. What are you picking? Mine is a toss up between two.
That is so difficult for me. I would say Dick Van Dyke, and I'm torn between the Beverly Hillbillies, Gomer Pyle, and Green Acres.
Really? Dick Van Dyke and Get Smart
See,
are neck and neck for me.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I might lean Get Smart, though.
I love it. I was watching Get Smart just a couple of nights ago.
I mean, it's fantastic.
I pay for friendly TV
Yeah.
because it has every one of these shows on it. And we watch them all the time. We watch them all the time.
One of the things also, just again, wholesome content back in that era. I don't know. Yes, there may be some things that you look back on, language they may use, not offensive language, but just like maybe offensive to some people, just because it was a different time. But now that our daughter is starting to talk a lot, copies everything we say.
You're a little more mindful of what's
she's
playing.
hearing. We're not even thinking about her, and we're saying something, and she copies, and we're like, oh. So now we're paying more attention to what's on our TV.
Yeah.
And so, the other night at dinner we had New Girl on, and it's not a filthy show by any means, but they just said something and it perked our ears up, and we're like, we're gonna have to. So we put on Boy Meets World instead, just to make sure it was extra wholesome.
We had The Office playing the other night, and a couple of jokes were said, and I was just like, I flipped over to Andy Griffith.
Yeah,
it was just like
you just got to.
That didn't feel appropriate for a child.
But there's nothing like that now, and I guess it's because there's kids streaming stuff. They don't have to. Networks TV used to have to, and I guess network TV still does. I don't watch broadcast network TV anymore, but I guess they probably still do have standards. But
It has loosened up a lot, though.
that's true, a whole lot.
Because that's one of the things I've learned listening to the Office ladies is they recount going through recording The Office. They will talk several times about jokes that they would try, and standards and practices would come back and like, oh, you can't say that, you can't do that, you can't put that in there.
Yeah.
And over the course of a decade of doing that show,
Right.
things loosened up.
Yeah.
That they could say and they could do.
Yeah.
That in 2005 they couldn't get away with.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't take long. But you go back to the 60s, and I'm sure that was happening then, but in the context of our eyes coming in from the 2000s, this is as wholesome as you get.
Well, the Dick Van Dyke Show had
Controversial
Dick
at this
and
time.
Mary Tyler Moore sleeping in the same bed together.
Yeah,
that was not portrayed on TV.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that were uncomfortable with sort of the sexuality, the tension that was built through that show. There's really nothing. You go back and watch it now, and there's nothing that just seems inappropriate at all. But but there was a sexual tension there that wasn't portrayed on TV.
I think I remember seeing it was the first show to ever have a toilet on camera.
Is it really?
I think so.
Wow.
Again, that's just how strict they were taking it before then. We don't want to show a toilet. You don't show a toilet on TV.
And I mean, you think of a show like I Dream of Jeannie, and you have a very beautiful blonde-headed woman in sort of a risque outfit that
for the time especially
hadn't been seen on TV. And Get Smart, I think, because it was probably a little bit toward the later end of the 60s.
Right.
You can definitely feel they were a little bit looser than what the early 60s
Different
were.
vibe, for sure.
But this is going to be difficult for me to not just ride the 60s train all the way to the end.
I'm looking at the two. I think we can be in agreement there.
Okay. It's close. The 2010s are good.
They're great. We didn't even mention Modern Family in the 2010s. I guess I skipped that for some reason. Modern Family was fantastic also.
I think there's just maybe a little more iconic Andy Griffith, Dick Van Dyke. Some of that is legendary stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's legendary. You wonder, looking ahead, I mean, that was how many years ago? 70 years ago? Not 60 years ago. Is that right? How many years ago is that?
Between 60 and 70.
40, 50, 60 years ago. You look at that point and you go, back up. You go ahead 60 years, 2070. Are they going to be looking at, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the Goldbergs, Last Man Standing? They're not. I don't think they revere them in the same way. They might say that about Big Bang Theory, They'll probably say that about Parks and Rec and Modern Family. I don't think they're talking about The Good Place or Brooklyn Nine-Nine or New Girl 70 years from now.
No.
So you're talking there's just a handful that we have. And so, yes, it may be nostalgia, but it's also stood up for 70 years. There's something to be said about that.
The fact that a place like Mount Airy, North Carolina, that was the fictional town that the Andy Griffith Show based Mayberry on, still completely exists as a tourist destination for that show that is 70 years old and is packed with people all the time, I think speaks to the legendary status of a show like that.
Yeah.
70 years from now, I think the Andy Griffith Show is still going to be remembered and looked at. The Dick Van Dyke Show is still going to be remembered. Those shows are still going to be played for that reason. Well, some of these others are just going to be forgotten completely about.
Okay, let's go 2000s and 70s. We're advancing the 60s, by the way, if you couldn't tell. 2000s and the 70s. We might diverge here. I don't know. 2000s, you've got things like The Office. The Office made its debut in 2000. Scrubs. If you never watched Scrubs, it's fantastic. 30 Rock. How I Met Your Mother. Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Have you ever watched that? I've caught bits and pieces of it. There's some people that are obsessed with that show. Malcolm in the Middle, Arrested Development, 2.5 Men. I watched that a lot back in the day. Rules of Engagement, King of Queens. According to Jim, Better Off Ted. I'm glad you remembered.
I had to throw that one in there. It's probably a very little known show.
Yeah, but it was it was so good. And 8 Simple Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter, among others. The 2000s was a strong year for comedy.
It was. Out of the last 2 decades, 2.5 decades, I think the 2000s is definitely the best of this millennia.
Yeah, I mean, hands down, between the three of them, it's definitely the better.
There is no question on that list what is my favorite.
Well, I mean, yeah.
It's The Office. I watched it and rewatched it. I could probably quote most of the episodes. I own bobbleheads. I own it on, I have it streaming. I've purchased all of the episodes through iTunes. I've got the DVD box sets of it. I've got Office trivia games. I love The Office. They were doing something, and credit to Greg Daniels.
Yeah.
He's a legend, but he started something that nobody else, it was a spinoff of a British show, but they were not doing, Ricky Gervais was not doing what Greg Daniels turned The Office into.
No, and you get some people who, I've seen it done a few different times where, notes is locked up on me. I have to restart.
Oh, no.
I'm having all kinds of issues today. A lot of people will say, The Office is the best, and people will go, which one? You know which one. You know which one is the best. The U.S. version trumps the UK, and it's not close. The UK is... Man, people are going to hate.
They are.
It's a mid-tier
It is.
sitcom. And so credit them for coming up with the concept, because I don't know that maybe they would have got to it eventually. I don't know that people would have come up with that kind of concept. So they were groundbreaking with the mockumentary style in an office building.
Yes.
That was genius. But as far as the rest of the writing goes, because I've watched the UK version, it's mid.
Yep.
It's mid at best. So give you your roses for coming up with it, but it had better. There's a lot on here that I like and I rewatch quite often. I watch How I Met Your Mother constantly. I love that show. I love the writing on that one. It's not good. There's really funny moments, but the writing on that for me on How I Met Your Mother is so well done. How they tie stuff together, the back and forth. Say what you want to about the last season or so. It could have went differently. Yeah, whatever. But the way they've tied in different things, just to me was always just really appreciated.
Yes.
30 Rock is another just freaking funny show. I mentioned how New Girl is like a top 5 funny. 30 Rock is up there too.
Yes.
Because it's just joke, like one after another. They're not worried about a storyline. They're like how many jokes per minute can we fit into the show?
I want to point out the fact that we do have How I Met Your Mother listed, but conspicuously missing from one of the decades we've already covered is How I Met Your Father.
Because it doesn't deserve to be on this list.
It fell victim to what we talked about.
Absolutely. Great point.
It was
a
case
2020
in
show.
point of why comedy is not as funny now.
Yeah.
They tried to hit every box that they could, check off everything to be PC about the show.
You have to include these people. You have to include this stuff. You have to,
because that's what was important, and the comedy got left aside of it.
And we're seeing that with a lot of entertainment, unfortunately. Not just comedy, but a lot of stuff. You know, we did our Disney episode not that long ago and talked about how they fell to it. You know, it's putting other things ahead of the thing you're supposed to be doing. You know, and so, but you're right. Yeah, How I Met Your Mother could not be made today.
No,
the Barney Stinson character
could not
exist today. You know, Scrubs has tried to have some revivals, and you know, Zach, what's his name? Zach. I want to say, is it Zach Gaff? I don't know that that's right. But him and Donald Faison have said before, like, hey, you know, it's who, by the way, Bill Lawrence, who wrote Ted Lasso, is the creator of Scrubs also. So they have very similar, where you have the comedy.
Yes.
And it didn't have a laugh track either. It may have been before The Office.
Yeah,
it was. So that may be the first one that I remember that didn't have a laugh track. But, you know, also had a lot of, it was quirky, it was very well written as well. So lots of good comedies in here. But then you have the 1970s. And you have things like Maude, The Jeffersons, The Bob Newhart Show, All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore Show, Sanford and Son, Good Times, The Odd Couple, MASH, Happy, which what we mentioned. I guess you can say MASH is a sitcom because
it's kind of on that,
but it's riding that line as well. Happy Days, Three's Company, Welcome Back, Kotter, Different Strokes.
Obviously, a lot of people consider MASH to be one of the greatest shows of all time. In fact, I think the series finale was like the most watched show of all time.
Yeah.
It has so many big names in it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. You get to Happy Days, though. Again, Ron Howard. We mentioned him in our previous episode. You get Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
Iconic show.
Lots of iconic names in the 70s.
Sanford and Son. The Jefferson. It's a great decade.
You know, this is the decade we start to see, you know, black comedies.
Yes.
And there's whole categories dedicated to that online that I was looking at. Really starting to make, and again, they're going to deal with stuff, and they're going to face stuff head on.
Yeah.
They're not afraid to do it because it can also be funny.
Yes.
They understood we're going to put comedy front and center and tackle it at the same time. We're not going to flip the two.
No.
When you have them out of order, it doesn't work. So you've got these great comedians, Good Times, Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons,
Archie Bunker,
Different Strokes. Archie Bunker
as a character, I think he's one of the great characters of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
The Sanford and Son gifts of Fred Sanford, you know, I'm coming home. Listen, you know, it fantastic.
It's
Mr.
great.
Jefferson.
Yeah. You got Mary Tyler Moore.
Yes.
Just like Lucy did in the 50s. Mary
Yes.
Tyler Moore probably kept pushing it further.
She did.
She
No
was
doubt.
The next generation of Lucy, for
No
sure.
doubt.
So, what do we got here? 50 or the 2000s versus the 70s. This is it's starting to get closer.
Yeah, let's do a countdown on this one.
Okay, we're gonna do a countdown. 3, 2, 1. 2000s. Yeah, it's really close though. And
If I had to give them a number, I'm giving the 2000s like an 8 and the 70s a 7.
I'm not even giving it a 7.5.
It's neck and neck.
It's very, very, very close. Okay, so we move on to the 80s and 90s.
This is a great match right here.
This is massive, and I feel like we're missing some 80s, but I guess not. To me, these two decades run into each other really, really well. They match energy a lot. Let's just go 80s first. So 80s, you've got the ones I have listed here. Tell me if I miss any. Roseanne, Golden Girls, Cheers, heavyweight. Cheers
Big.
was a lot of lists say it's a top 2 or 3 of all time. Murphy Brown, I used to love Murphy Brown. The Golden Girls, The Cosby Show. Before it was wrong to say you liked Cosby, The Cosby Show.
It was fantastic.
I don't care what Bill Cosby did.
Yeah.
I do.
Like
easy.
now.
Yeah.
Then.
But that show, and it's a shame. It's a crying shame every network has taken it off. Every streamer has taken it off. I understand it. But, man, it was a good show. And I miss watching The Cosby Show. You had the Wonder Years. You had Newhart. Great show. Bob Newhart, man, did it in different decades.
Yes.
Different shows, which Cosby did as well. Cosby had the Cosby Show. He had the Bill Cosby Show.
Yes.
I think he had just one just called Cosby, so he was doing it too. Lucy did the same thing. You had the Lucy Show. The Ricky and Lucy Hour,
yes.
Something like that. So, Who's the Boss? Ted Danson. Alf. I used to have a little Alf. It was great.
Yep.
And then Growing Pains in the 80s.
Let's see. Did you get Family Ties?
No, I didn't.
I think that one's up there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you say Full House?
I put Full House in the 90s.
Okay.
Just because it came out kind of late in the 80s.
Okay.
But I mean, we could obviously put it in the 80s too. I tried to go with.
I mean, it kind of split the decades in half.
So
half and half.
Anytime they were half and half like that, I tried to lean on which one they leaned in more.
What about Night Court?
Night Court. Did I not put that in here? I saw it a lot.
That's one they did a remake of recently. The original I thought was better.
I did too.
But I like Night Court.
Yeah, I like Night Court a lot too. So that was the 80s. Then the 90s. To me, it's these are pretty evenly matched, but I don't know. I think 90s is going to overtake it.
Slight edge again.
Everybody Loves Raymond in the late 90s. Mad About You, News Radio, Friends, Seinfeld, The Simpsons, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Frasier, Home Improvement, Boy Meets World, Full House, Saved by the Bell, Family Matters, The Nanny, The Drew Carey Show, Step by Step, Wings, Just Shoot Me, Spin City, and Coach.
Wow.
That's a lot of quality shows.
A lot of people would consider Friends to be maybe the greatest sitcom of all time.
Or Seinfeld.
Seinfeld would be argued up there.
The Simpsons are on here too, and a lot of lists put Simpsons number 1.
It's like the longest running show, right?
Yeah.
Fresh Prince. It's hard to. I mean, you hear that song come on, and it just.
Yeah, that is funny. That is one thing. Sitcoms don't have great theme songs these days.
No.
I mean, Big Bang Theory had a good one.
Yep.
The Office has a good one. I'm trying to think of new. How I Met Your Mother, I guess, does.
Yeah.
Ted Lasso did.
See, I don't even remember it.
That's the Mumford. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is it because so many of them have a skip intro button?
Maybe.
They don't put in the effort to it?
But there's a lot of them that don't do it anymore either. They just kind of show the title and move on.
Go into it?
They just kind of like a bug,
King of Queens had a pretty good intro.
Yeah. But nothing like the 90s and the da 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 da. Just those iconic Green Acres is the place.
Yeah.
They just didn't do that.
I was sending you videos last week of putting current political figures to the Seinfeld bass track.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean that you know that sound. I mean, you know what you're watching.
Yeah.
Fresh Prince.
Yeah.
You know
Fresh
Friends.
Frasier.
I'm trying to remember theirs.
Tossed salad and scrambled
yes.
which is actually what's his name who plays Frasier? That's gonna drive me crazy. It is
Kelsey Grammer.
Kelsey Grammer. It's him singing the theme song to that.
Now I do not remember Home Improvement's theme song. I could not tell you for the life of me.
No,
That's not ringing a bell to me.
I remember that.
Did you put Everybody Loves Raymond in the 90s or in the 2000s?
90s.
You gave it to the 90s.
Yeah.
Okay.
News Radio was really good. I watched it a lot. Mad About You, I watched a lot. Of course, you had your TGIFs, your Boy Meets World, your Full House, your Saved by the Bell, your Step by Step, Saved by the Bell was CBS. You had all of those kind of Family Matters in that Friday night block.
Yeah.
Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I didn't even put that on here. That was your Friday night block. You know, required viewing. You know,
Yeah.
you were home on Friday night and you got pizza and you know, or leftovers in our case. We would do like these leftover nights, tray nights.
Did you have Third Rock from the Sun on there?
No, I guess I never got into that.
Wasn't really into that one. I saw some of it. What about that 70s show?
I meant to put that on here. That was huge. I forget that.
It's more. It was 98 to 06, so I feel like it leans probably more 2000s.
Probably goes in the 2000s. Drew Carey show was fantastic too.
Oh.
And it's just now coming
forget about
to
that.
a streaming service. I can't remember which one. I sent it to my brother, but it hasn't been available on streaming anywhere
Okay.
ever. Drew Carey show was fantastic though. It was an underrated show in my opinion, because he would bring a lot of his Who's Line buddies over to do that show.
Oh.
You had Drew Carey, you had Craig Ferguson, Ryan Stiles was in it as a cast regular. It was a great show. Or Saved by the Bell. And again, maybe it's nostalgia for us. Maybe we look at it and go, we grew up on these shows. We remember watching them live and being invested. I remember watching the finale of Boy Meets World. You know, I remember watching the finale of Friends. Just growing up with these and going, okay, this is part of my life. But I'm going to give the edge to the 90s here. He's looking at the list. 90s?
90s.
90s. Okay, we've gone through them all. This next part may be faster, and this is a little bit more like a typical bracket. But now we go 50s versus the aughts. So you're talking, we've got Honeymooners, I Love Lucy, Leave It to Beaver, Abbott Costello, versus Scrubs and The Office and How I Met Your Mother, 30 Rock, 2.5 Men, Rules of Engagement, King of Queens, Better Off Ted. We got a decision to make. Which one advances? You want to 3, 2, 1 this?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. 2000s.
I want to go 2000 so bad.
Go ahead.
I am, as you mentioned earlier, I'm just looking at maybe a little bit more of the wholesomeness of it and feeling like that's, as I see I Love Lucy and Leave It to Beaver, it's great. But to not push The Office, How I Met Your Mother.
I look at the top of the order of both, and I'm like, it's just stronger in the 2000s. I Love Lucy and Honeymooners are carrying the load there, and they're great. They're GOAT status. I don't know if it's... Here's the thing. We're trying to figure out which decade is the best, not which sitcom is the best. So when I look at it as a decade, I'm like, 2000s has a better
Leave It to
decade
Beaver
of
taught
sitcom.
so many lessons, though, about telling the truth, about treating people right.
Barney Stinson taught... Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Michael Scott... Never mind.
Yeah. Let's go with
Let's go to the cards.
Yeah.
Okay. The 1950s, 1 to 10, 3, 2, 1, 8. And then the 2000s, 3, 2, 1, 9. Okay. 2000s is going to make it. Begrudgingly. Next, we have the 90s versus the 60s. So you've got the 60s coming in with things like Dick Van Dyke, Jetsons, Andy Griffith, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, Get Smart. The list goes on. This is a hard one. 90s, you got Seinfeld and Friends and Everybody Loves Raymond, Home Improvement, Fresh Prince. You could go on and on and on and on.
To me, this is the final. When I think of sitcom decades, these are the two I think of. I think of the 60s and the 90s.
This is our show. You want to do that instead?
I would.
Okay, so 2000s gets third place.
That's what I am most comfortable doing.
Okay.
Because do you agree?
I absolutely agree. When I think of TV decades, there's one I immediately think of, and then there's one in second place for me. So I already know what my call is going to be.
I know mine.
And I have a feeling we're going to disagree. 3, 2, 1, 90s. I knew it. I knew we disagree. When I think sitcom, I think 90s. I think of a 90s sitcom. But
I mean, I think of that too.
Absolutely an argument to the 60s, though. To me, they're dang near close.
They are. I would. My argument is that these set the standard for what the 90s did. And I just think
I'm going roster size. The 90s is just deeper. I don't know. It's really hard. I almost don't want to say a winner.
I have watched every single one of those 60s series, probably in full.
In totality?
In totality. And it would be difficult for me to choose one. When I come back to the 90s, I have not seen all of those.
Which one have you not seen?
I have not seen...
You probably haven't seen Just Shoot Me, right?
I have not seen that.
Spin City?
I've not seen that.
News Radio?
I've not seen that. Okay. I've not seen The Drew Carey Show. I have not seen...
You should. They're great.
I mean, I've seen bits and pieces of Wings.
Wings was very underrated, I thought. That was a USA rewatch for me.
Let's see what else. I've not seen a whole lot of Mad About You.
Okay.
To me, there's the heavy hitters of the 90s.
Yeah.
That you've seen, that you like, that you know. But for me, I just...
You know what we needed to do? Our next episode needs to be 60s versus 90s sitcoms, and we'll go head to head. Wow. Show versus show. Maybe that's what we should do at some point. Okay. We got to make a call. So we're split. So we're going to go 1 to 10. Let's do 60s first. 1960s, 1 to 10. 3, 2, 1, 9. 10. I have a feeling I know where this is going. 1990s, 3, 2, 1,
9.
10. Okay, we're going to 100. 60s, 1 to 100. 3, 2, 1, 93. 100?
I don't think it gets better. I think this is perfection.
Goodness gracious. Okay. I put those in the wrong number. 90s. 1 to 100. 3, 2, 1,
93.
You little dirty dog. You knew I wouldn't go 100.
I thought you would.
I would.
I thought you were going 100 all the way.
60s
I thought I'm going to give us
it. 60s advances.
I thought we would just flip there and take it to 1,000.
I can't make anything 100. I don't feel like I can make anything 100.
You don't think that one of these decades embodies sitcom perfection?
I think 90s gets as close as you can get.
Okay.
So far.
And to me, the 60s does not miss. None of those shows to me miss. They hit on every cylinder.
I mean, you're not wrong. I personally, I'm not a fan of Gomer Pyle as much or Mr. Ed as much. Hogan's Heroes is okay.
Mr. Ed and Hogan's Heroes
Green Acres
would be at the bottom.
Beverly Hillbillies. Those are not necessarily my jam. Andy Griffith, iconic as it is just not. For me, it's not as good as a Seinfeld or the Everybody Loves Raymond or Friends, stuff like that. It's just preference.
It is.
And that's what the hard part about all these kinds of things are. But that's what we get paid the money for.
I was going to say, it might be harder to identify with some of those shows.
Right.
I think if you were alive and could remember 50s, 60s era.
Oh, 100%.
I wasn't, though, but I grew up with parents that were in that time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's why I feel that attachment to those shows. But again, it's very close.
It's very,
to
very,
me,
very, very
it's
close.
a coin toss.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
really a coin toss.
Yeah. Okay. Well, 60s takes it. Let's I don't know. I don't know how we decide this next one we're going to do.
It may be the best thing today, but is it the best thing of all time? It's time for the best thing battle.
Okay. I had a hard time remembering what the last episode was.
It's not written on our
It's
board.
not. Yeah, we didn't update the
didn't
board.
update the
It
board.
was bald dudes,
Yes, bald guys that we wanted to get our heads shaved with.
and it's Steve Jobs.
It's
if
Steve
I'm not
Jobs.
mistaken.
Yep.
So, would you rather have a haircut with Steve Jobs or the decade of TV from the '60s? Which is the better thing?
I love my Apple products.
But
He is one of the most, what is the word I'm looking for?
iconic, legendary.
Well, yes, but more than that, one of the people who have affected life.
Innovator.
Yes. Like an Elon
Yeah.
Musk, one of these once in a generation kind
Absolutely.
of people
Yeah. Absolutely.
versus
A whole decade of TV.
a whole decade of TV that is not real.
Yeah. Which is better? 3, 2, 1. A
60s.
conversation with Steve Jobs.
Gosh, I feel bad. I feel so bad
I'm
that
sorry.
I just said
I
that.
would give up all 60s TV to have a conversation with Steve Jobs. I just would.
I want to agree with you. I need you.
Then do it.
I need you to lead me. I want to be led.
For the same
I want to
reason.
be forced to drink the water.
So there are plenty of other decades of TV that are great. They're fantastic. If you were to never watch it, you had that experience. You have those memories of those TV shows. If all of them got wiped away, you'd still have it. But that memory of Steve Jobs, I ain't giving that up.
We're talking a 15-minute conversation.
No. Think back to that episode. You said it could last hours. Barbershop conversation could go forever. So if I could sit down with Steve Jobs and just talk to him, meet my maker, that kind of situation.
It's okay. You have led me. You have forced me to drink. You have waterboarded me in a sense.
Just here, if I haven't convinced you, Apple, dude.
I know.
Apple when it was super innovative, even,
Yes. Before it was.
I would love to know
stupid,
what
though.
he would come up with next.
Yeah.
That brain, that mind, that Tony Stark brain of his, what would he come up with
Okay.
next that we haven't seen?
It's Steve Jobs. It's a conversation with Steve.
All right. Well, we did it. We did it. Expect more sitcom conversations down the road. I'm not sure how we'll package them yet, but we'll get into the shows a little bit more at some point and really kind of narrow down some thoughts eventually. Aaron, you have anything else?
No. There's a lot to be said, and I that's why we've got to do further discussion on this.
Yeah.
We need further words.
I mean, that's true. We do. ChatGPT didn't give you any jokes this time?
About
About, I don't know, sitcoms or anything? I mean, they didn't give
hang
you...
on, let's find out.
They didn't give you... Usually, sometimes ChatGPT will give us this kind of stuff, unprompted,
Okay, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Why don't sitcom characters ever need therapy?
I have no idea.
Because all their problems are solved in 30 minutes. Oh, why was the sitcom about elevators canceled?
I don't know.
It had its ups and downs, but it never really took off.
That was all just a setup to play the laugh track that I forgot about that I pulled up an hour ago.
Oh, one more. What do you call a sitcom about ghosts?
Ghost on CBS.
Nope, you call it Booze and Oz.
There's always that, one thing about, we didn't touch on the laugh tracks too much, but one thing about the laugh tracks, there's, on a lot of shows, you can always pick out one voice that gets loud.
Yes. Yes, there's one person there.
There's always one in the crowd, but anyway. All right. That'll do it then, I think, for the show. Unless you have anything else. Nothing?
How would our show be done if we had a laugh track?
We'd probably be funnier.
If we had a live studio audience, if we recorded with a live studio audience.
I still want to do that. I want to record in front of a live audience at some point because I think we're both on stages a lot independently. I think we would probably come alive in a different way on stage because we'd be trying a little bit harder to make people laugh. Because right now we just think we're funny. We're the only ones. Now maybe it will turn out to be the other. Maybe we're sitting here laughing and crickets out there. Just nothing.
That would be bad.
That would be bad. Maybe we shouldn't do it. We're gonna do it at some point. That'll be our grand finale. We'll do a live show. Okay. Nothing else for the best things. I'm Craig.
I'm Aaron.
No part 2.
Thanks for listening to the Best Things Podcast. If you liked today's episode, subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening now. And remember, connect with us on the socials at Best Things Pod, and you may hear your take on an upcoming episode.